Welcome to the Expert Connect Wellness Chats. I'm here today with Marin McCue, who's also the founder of Dopeame, and she's doing some really amazing work in her practice. Today, Marin and I will be talking about breathing for your immune system. And Marin, as I was preparing for this chat, what came to mind is anytime we are experiencing any kind of distress, we're told to take a deep breath. Now, as an expert, tell us, what are the benefits of deep breathing?
Thank you for asking. Yeah, it's a very interesting question because it's definitely the advice I've heard for years, and I hear lots of other people um, giving out as advice, and it's a little bit misleading, actually.
Mm,
Taking a deep breath, while it can in the moment really help with grounding, right? One of the things that can happen when we're feeling distressed is, I know for me, I can feel very scattered, discombobulated, tense, not really in my body. So sometimes taking a deep breath can help me actually just come back into my body, right? So
okay.
there is a benefit to it. However, the problem with taking a big breath or a deep breath, it's also going to be completely changing your blood pH. You're going to be breathing out a lot more carbon dioxide, right? A
Mhm.
really big breath in, if it's fast or slow, we're actually activating more of our sympathetic nervous system when we take a deep breath. There's more sympathetic nervous system receptors in the chest. So generally a
Mhm.
deep breath would be, well, usually belly, but not always, depending on your breathing habits, but it'll be a lot of chest, which actually activates your system. So that in itself can actually make you feel anxious. And then as you take a deep or a long exhale, you are now letting go of a lot of carbon dioxide. And one of the common misconceptions around carbon dioxide is that it's just a waste product that we breathe out. And that's not true. We actually need presence of carbon dioxide in our blood at all times. If we do
Okay.
not have enough carbon dioxide, so one of my favorite descriptions of this comes from Dr. Peter Litchfield, and he says when we breathe out too much carbon dioxide, our hemoglobin becomes unfriendly, which basically means it doesn't release oxygen or nitric oxide the way that it would otherwise. And so, even though you're taking this deep breath, thinking, oh, I'm bringing in all of this oxygen, generally, if you take a big deep breath, you're going to breathe out a lot of the oxygen you just breathed in. And because you're expelling a lot of carbon dioxide, a lot of the oxygen that's now in your body is going to be adhered to the blood cell and will not actually release and be ingested into the busy tissue that needs oxygen. So we could actually get to the point where if we're taking these big, deep breaths, we're depriving ourselves of oxygen and causing more distress in our system.
Oh, that is so interesting. As soon as you said that, I think I stopped breathing.
Yeah.
Um, but so, what would be the best way then? Alternatively, if we don't take deep breaths, then what would be the best way
Yeah,
to breathe?
totally. Yeah. So, first of all, if your state in the moment of distress is a feeling of like dissociation or lethargy, unmotivated, well, that's a great reason to take a deep breath to activate
Mm,
your system and get a little bit of that mobilization going to then be able
mhm,
to regulate yourself with your breath after. But for most people, they're going to find distress is actually more of an anxiety state. So again, taking a deep breath could actually just amplify that anxiety. So instead, what we want to breathe is this is an acronym from Patrick McEwen, who's written many books about the breath and specifically about the Buteyko technique, which is I definitely recommend anyone who's interested about learning how to strengthen their immune system and teach themselves to breathe better is understand mild air hunger and specifically Buteyko technique. There's lots of really great exercises, which maybe we can connect on another chat to talk about that.
absolutely.
But in general, so what the acronym is LSD. We want to breathe light, slow, and deep. And this is a different type of deep, right? So not just a deep breath in, as in how much air can I breathe in and how much can I breathe out. We want to think deep more as like deep in the body. Like we want to feel like the pelvic diaphragm on your inhale growing larger in circumference. You want to feel your low belly, your sides, and your back expanding like a sphere in all directions. So when I say deep, it's about deep in your body, right? Not just a deep breath, right? So light, and that we actually don't want to, we want to train ourselves in general to not be breathing to our fullest lung capacity, right? We want strong lungs. There's definitely techniques we can use to strengthen our respiratory capacity and simply even just physical exercise, right? That's one of the things that we do is we strengthen our lungs. But in general, throughout the day, we don't want to be breathing to our fullest lung capacity. We want to have the strength and the ability to breathe less. So if we're breathing light, it's like 60 to 80% of your lung capacity. Okay, and slow. Take your time. Right? The goal is around 5.5 seconds in, 5.5 seconds out, where every muscle in your body is supporting this breath. So it is a strong breath, but when you're strong, things feel easy because your whole body is able to work together versus one part of your body trying to muscle through something. When the body is connected and breathing properly, it can be slow, right? Soft, smooth, light, and deep. We also want to make sure that we're breathing in and out through our nose, right? So breathing in and out through the mouth will activate your nervous system, and it's just a larger hole. So you're going to be bringing in more air and breathing out more air. And we know that looking more into breath chemistry, that's not what we want, right? It's not just about breathing mechanics. It's about what's happening at the cellular level, what's going on inside the body. And so if you're breathing in and out through your mouth, you're going to be disturbing the chemicals at a quicker rate. So slow, light, deep.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And so during COVID, there's a lot of talk about us strengthening our immune system.
Mm-hmm.
How can these breathing exercises help strengthen our immune system, Marin?
Mm-hmm.
Or can they?
Yes, they can, definitely. So what's interesting about the breathing and the immune system is that the concept of stress, we want to be able to delineate the difference between acute stress and chronic stress.
Okay.
Right? Chronic stress in your system is going to diminish the strength of your immune system, along with many other systems in your body. We're not meant to live with chronic stress. However, acute stress is different, right? So we can use breathing techniques that actually activate some stress in our system. So by doing a mild air hunger technique, for example, one of my practices is to take and this comes from Buteyko technique, is to begin to shorten my breath. So after I've found a rhythm of balance, around 5.5 seconds in, 5.5 seconds out, which I'll mention, don't get attached to that because depending on your current state, a balanced soothing breath might be 3 seconds in, 3 seconds out.
Okay.
Okay, so you want to go with what feels nourishing for you, yet through practice, you can lengthen your breath without force. So once you find your balance, and then you shorten the inhale to maybe be 1 or 2 seconds, and then a long exhale to really take your time with the exhale, you're going to experience mild air hunger, and that is a stressor. Yet if you're doing it deliberately and you're paying attention to your body, and then afterwards, after a few minutes of doing a technique like that, you then calm your system down, get back into a balanced breath that feels nourishing. That's going to regulate your nervous system, right? So when we have that bout of acute stress, we actually have our immune system works harder, right? It becomes stronger, right? So doing that in little bouts where I stress my nervous system and my immune system then has to kick in, that's going to actually change the way that my whole body works, right? So it just reminds me of one of the studies that was done, I believe it was in the Netherlands, but it was with Wim Hof, who some people might have heard of. Yeah. So they did a study with him.
They call him.
Yeah. So they injected him with E. coli.
Right.
And he did his breathing technique, which is a stressor. You overbreathe consciously. You stress your system. But because he did that while E. coli was injected into his system, he was actually able to fight off any symptoms. he did not get sick whatsoever. And of course, this was a controlled study. So they did it, injected it into other people who didn't do the breath technique, and they became extremely ill. Right. So it's such a huge, at least for me, was a huge paradigm shift in understanding that stress is not just one thing. It's not just bad. It's not that we want to eliminate stress. We just need to make sure that we have more of a rhythm where it's not just like, I wake up and I slowly get stressed, and then I'm more stressed and I'm more stressed and I'm more stressed until I crash. No, we want to actually go through some rhythms where maybe, I do stress myself a little bit. I focus on something and it's really uncomfortable or difficult. But after around one ultradian rhythm, 90 minutes, I need to restore. I need to regulate. I need to do something that's going to help me come back into my body, to connect with my breath, and then step into another bout of focus or stress. Maybe I go have a workout of some kind. That's stress, right? But I need to make sure that I calm myself down and I get grounded after. So these bouts of stress are actually strengthening my immune system, whereas chronic stress staying up here is going to deplete my entire system, and I won't be able to fight off anything.
Interesting. And interesting how you've put that, because we breathe without even thinking about it. It's just normal. We need to breathe to be able to survive. And consciously, we're not even aware of how we breathe, what we do. And there's so much talk about really boosting your immunity. And I really like how you said that working out sort of is a stress on your immune system, but then you have to regulate it. So are there different types of breathing, Marin? Are there different forms of breathing, and is one then more superior to the other?
This is where individuation comes in. It totally depends on each individual's current state of their nervous system. So it's not that one is better in general, but there would be a practice or a few practices that would be better for you than for someone else, right? So the way that I would kind of put this at this point is what I really think what everyone needs is more practice with, you could call it coherent breathing or heart-brain coherence, or samavriti, balanced breathing, but a practice where we pause the external world or our fixation on the external and move inwards to meet the breath and to guide it into a balanced breath. Because yes, we are breathing whether we think about it or not, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're breathing properly. And many of us are not breathing properly. I was not breathing properly for most of my life, and I'm still working on it. There's still things that I know I get dysregulated, and which is fine to get dysregulated. It's about knowing how to come back into regulation. So building a practice where you are regulating yourself will serve you no matter who you are. Because that's what we need, is to be able to notice when we've become anxious or distressed or obsessed or extreme or in grief, or anything that it's such normal parts of the human experience. And when we know how to regulate ourselves, it actually gives us more freedom and flexibility to be able to move through the spectrum of the human experience. Right? It's kind of this inner trust of like, it's okay if anything happens, because I know how to come back home to myself. Right? So what I would suggest for everyone is, if you feel comfortable with putting your hands on your body, this can be really helpful, because it gives you a tangible sensation to focus on, or leaning against the wall, or laying on your belly on the floor, or putting a sandbag on your belly. And then breathing in and out through your nose, focus on your posture, and just count your breath, right? Try to slow it down. I like to say, like, what is it to breathe in slow motion, right? Where your whole body is working together. You can even focus on your heart and imagine that you're breathing a positive emotion into your heart, and then just relaxing on your exhale. And when you find your balanced breath, maybe it's 3 seconds in, 3 seconds out, or 4 and 4. After you've done that for a few rounds, just get curious of, okay, what would it take to extend this by 1 second? Not to breathe in more air or breathe out more air, but just slow it down. And if you can approach it with curiosity and just start to notice, like, oh, I've got tension in my diaphragm here. Okay, what can I do to relax that? Or like, oh, my shoulders keep lifting. Like, can I relax that a little bit? It's just to be more curious about how your body is moving or not moving as you breathe. And for a couple minutes every day, just guide yourself into a balanced breath so that you can get to know what it is to feel calm and connected. And then know that the world of breath work is vast and diverse and fun. And a really important part of it, though, is knowing how to regulate yourself, because there are a lot of techniques that really shoot you into dysregulation, which serves a purpose, but only if you come back to regulation after. Otherwise, you'll step up from a technique and you're walking out in the world in this dysregulated place thinking, oh, I just did some breath work. It's good for me. Well, not if you didn't get regulated after. And I know this from experience, right? Yeah. So that's the first step for everyone is really get to know your balanced breath and what it feels like to be regulated.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing that. And for our listeners who have tuned in to listen to this episode, Marin, where are they if they want to reach out to you to get more information on this? Because you do amazing work on breathing and all this breathwork stuff. Where are they able to get this information? Where are they able to come in and seek your services from?
Thank you. Yeah, I post a lot on Instagram at Dopeame, Dopeame. And I have a website with a blog, and I do have an automated online program now that I've just recently launched that combines the practice of yoga nidra, the yoga of sleep, which is deeply restorative and transformative, and potentially can even reshape your nervous system. So it's understanding the steps and stages of that practice, along with pranayama, breath work. So that's an 8-module, potentially 8-month program that is all self-led online. And I am working on a Breath 101 program as well at this point. So if anyone's curious to learn more about that, you can reach out. And then I do one-on-one coaching with individuals as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today on this episode, Marin. It was a pleasure hosting you, and thank you to all our listeners. Stay tuned for more episodes coming from the Expert Connect. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.